Well, the Secretary of State, John Kerry, is in the crosshairs. They're aiming at him because he demanded an immediate ceasefire, which would have helped Hamas. And Israel's Knesset has voted down any potential plan that he's set forth. Members of Congress on both parties are coming to the defense of Israel. The hue and cry is out. And one more example of what seems to be feckless foreign policy.
Well, Israel isn't stopping its attacks, and Prime Minister Netanyahu is warning that fighting may go on for a long time. Chris Mitchell brings us the story.
The pounding of Gaza overnight, hitting key Hamas targets, followed the killing of 10 Israeli soldiers, 9 of them in 2 separate attacks inside Israel. The latest Israeli fatalities make it likely that Israel will push harder to dismantle the threat of Hamas, like the many terror infiltration tunnels here along the border, before it even considers a ceasefire. On Tuesday evening, Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, told the nation to prepare for a prolonged battle.
We will not complete the mission, we will not complete the operation without neutralizing the tunnels, the sole purpose of which is the destruction of our civilians and the killing of our children.
Surveys show that a big majority of Israelis support the war against Hamas. Intelligence Minister Yuval Steinitz told CBN News Israel wants a full Hamas disarmament.
We have to stop this suffering of Israelis and Palestinians in Gaza by demilitarizing Gaza and by ejecting or dismantling any terrorist organization that is operating from Gaza.
Israel targeted more than 70 Hamas terror sites overnight, including 2 command centers, 4 weapons storage sites hidden in mosques, and the full route of a terror tunnel shown in this IDF footage. Israel also hit Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh's house, as well as government buildings and the Hamas satellite TV station. Meanwhile, U.S. and European attempts to impose a ceasefire, led by Secretary of State John Kerry, have failed so far. The U.S. administration is angry about charges that Kerry is trying to rescue Hamas at Israel's expense.
We have strongly supported Israel's right to defend itself against rockets and tunnel attacks, and we've engaged together in sensitive negotiations. We will continue to do so, and will continue to set the record straight when anyone distorts the facts.
But Zvi Mazel, former Israeli ambassador to Egypt, says Israel is confused at the White House support for the Muslim Brotherhood, which includes Hamas.
Kerry started a kind of a matchmaking between Israel and Hamas and put Hamas and Israel on the same level. No, you cannot put a democratic state like Israel and the Islamic terroristic organization as Hamas on the same level. Absolutely not. America should be pro-Israeli and say it loudly.
Meanwhile, pressure is building not just on Israel as the Palestinian death toll grows, but also on the administration. Congress is asking hard questions about why Israel is pushed to stop defending itself from ongoing attacks. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Israeli-Gaza border.
Well, our reporter George Thomas, peripatetic, he's always in the hot spots of the world. He arrived in Gaza today, and just minutes after he was filming near a mosque, an Israeli missile hit a field beside him. John Jessup brings us more of that story from our news bureau in Washington. Here's John.
Well, Pat, first off, we're happy to report George and his cameraman are both fine. That close missile strike is all part of Israel's stepped-up military offensive against Hamas. Here now is George's report from Gaza.
Within hours of Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's pronouncement last night on national television, Israel picked out 60 targets overnight, including of senior Hamas leadership. We've come into Gaza this morning, and they talk about they never experienced anything like this last night. It was intense for the Gazans. In the 3 weeks of Israel's offensive, last night was the biggest. It was intense. What this means going forward, no one knows. Gazans that I have spoken to say they clearly feel Israel has stepped up the offensive, taken it to a whole different stage, and people are concerned about that. As we drove into Gaza, we saw people trying to go about their lives in a normal way as possible. Shops were open, people were driving out on the streets, but there is a sense today that Israel has stepped up its military offensive to a whole new level. We will continue to bring you stories from the Gaza Strip on the 700 Club on CBN News, as well as our various social media platforms, including Facebook and Twitter. I hope you will join me for those reports. I'm George Thomas reporting for CBN News from the Gaza Strip.
Here at home, Secretary of State John Kerry highlighted the plight of American Pastor Saeed Abedini Monday as he presented the State Department's annual report on international religious freedom. Kerry said in Iran, U.S.-Iranian citizen Pastor Saeed Abedini remains imprisoned. The Iranian authorities sentenced him to 8 years behind bars simply because of his religious beliefs. Kerry went on to say, "We will continue to call for his release, and we will continue to work for it." Jay Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice says they're thankful for Kerry's commitment to work for Abedini's release. The State Department report itself also discusses his imprisonment. You can find out more by going to our website, cbnnews.com. Well, the Ground Zero cross will be displayed at the National September 11th Museum. A federal appeals court rejected an atheist group's lawsuit to block the display of the cross beams found in the wreckage of the World Trade Center. The American Center for Law and Justice says the ruling represents a significant constitutional victory. The ACLJ filed an amicus brief in the case on behalf of more than 230,000 Americans who supported the display. Well, Congress is taking on the Veterans Affairs healthcare scandal by introducing a bill to reform the department and provide it with at least $17 billion. Both parties support the plan. It sets aside $10 billion to fund health care for veterans outside of the VA system and pays for private doctors to see veterans who've been waiting a long time for treatment or live at least 40 miles from a VA facility. The VA would get $5 billion for more doctors and 27 new clinics around the country.
Planes and tanks and guns are a cost of war. So is taking care of the men and women who use those weapons and who fight our battles.
In order for it to pass, the House and Senate must first approve the bill before Congress is scheduled to leave for its 5-week summer recess on Thursday. Pat?
Well, as it's been said, the chances of getting that through are probably pretty good, because when you got a socialist like Bernie Sanders fighting for it, you can figure the Democrats will come on board, and so will the Republicans. The trouble is, this system is so incredibly mired in bureaucracy. It is broken so badly. The suggestion has been made, and I concur, is that all of those VA hospitals should be transformed to civilian hospitals. They should be run by civilian hospital administrators, and the veterans should get vouchers to pay for their health care and get them out of this incredibly bureaucratic mess. They've been humiliated. They've been forced to wait. A number, not many, but a number have died because of the wait. And there has been mismanagement on a high order. This bill also includes the permission to fire people. Just imagine those workers in Washington, they can do anything they want to and can't get fired. You need an act of Congress to fire one. John?
Pat, cleanup is underway after a massive storm system wrought havoc across much of the country. A rare tornado slammed the suburbs of Boston. It's the first time one's been reported in that part of the country in some 50 years. The twister left a wide path of destruction, but fortunately no reports of death. Other parts of the country were also hit hard. Charlene Aaron has a story.
Revere, Massachusetts looks more like a war zone after a tornado tore through the city Monday. The storm carved out a 2-mile path of destruction, leaving behind scores of damaged buildings and cars, toppled trees, and more than a dozen homes left uninhabitable.
Devastation, never seen anything like it. I mean, 60 years, well, in the family for 60 years, grew up here.
We have no clothes, we have nothing.
It's not supposed to happen here. It's not Oklahoma.
The National Weather Service said the rare tornado was an EF2 with a maximum wind speed of 120 miles per hour. Luckily, no one was killed.
Material stuff is material stuff, but people are people, and you can't replace people, so I'm glad everybody's okay.
From the East Coast to California, Mother Nature has left her mark, including unprecedented flooding and deadly lightning. People in central Kentucky are recovering from a powerful storm that barreled through the area, leaving behind injuries, damaged homes, and power outages.
Looks like a war zone to me. I've been in Vietnam and I haven't seen it as bad as this. It's the worst I've ever seen it over in this neighborhood.
A tornado was also reported in Connecticut, as well as this one in a cornfield on a farm in Colorado. One of at least 2 twisters that touched down in the Denver metro area Monday. In Nevada, heavy rains caused massive flooding, prompting road closures. Meanwhile, in Southern California, people are dealing with the aftermath of a freak strike of lightning at Venice Beach. 20-year-old Nick Fagnano was swimming in the water when he was killed by the bolt. More than a dozen others were injured.
It was an incredibly loud flash, like a bomb went off, and the thunder hit at the same time. So I knew it struck very close. So it was really scary.
Today, many are hoping for clearer skies and calmer weather. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Pat, some wild summer weather.
Well, it's crazy, but that's the way it is. It's the world we live in, and so I don't right now attach any prophetic significance to the fact that we've had some tornadoes. A few years ago, I used to be a jogger, and the mantra that was then given to us was what was called LSD, long, slow distance. And the idea is that if you could do a 10-minute mile, which isn't exactly fast, but if you could do a couple of miles in 20 minutes, you would have all the cardiovascular work you need. And now a new study has come out which pretty much confirms what us old folks used to do. John?
That's right, Pat. Just a little bit of running, even at a very slow pace, may help you live longer. Running around 5 to 10 minutes a day can be very good for your heart, and running can cut your risk of dying from other causes as well. Even if you can't run every day, researchers found just running once or twice a week was still good for you. And if you're not used to running, researchers suggest start by walking first and building up gradually from there. Pat, I'm training for my 3rd marathon and ran 12 miles this last weekend. Something tells me you'd prefer riding your horse.
Well, I'll let the horse do the work. There's enough exercise in there to keep you fit. And anyhow, thank the Lord it's cooled down some. It's been so hot here. It's tough on him and tough on the rider. But today is an absolutely glorious day in this part of the world, and so I hope he'll be happy to have me aboard.
There's mixed reaction to President Obama's nominee to the post of Ambassador for International Religious Freedom. Rabbi David Saperstein has spent his career in Washington focusing on social justice and religious freedom issues as an activist in the liberal reform branch of Judaism. Some religious freedom advocates applaud the choice. Others say Saperstein is on the wrong side of issues like the controversy over religious freedom and Obamacare. The ambassador for religious freedom monitors and speaks out on religious freedom abuses worldwide. Well, more than 1/3 of Americans are falling far behind on their debts. So far behind, those debts are being reported to collection agencies. Those are the findings from a study by the Urban Institute. The debts include credit cards, hospital bills, mortgages, auto loans, student loans, even cell phone bills and gym memberships, and more. One reason why people's incomes haven't been going up much in recent years. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.